Hello. I presume that we are now live. So welcome to this little corner of my home where we're all in lockdown. And as you know, I thought that I would experiment with this method of communication. And as we often say, us mediums, it's often easier to communicate with the dead, so-called dead, than with the living. And I'm just very happy to be able to do that. And I hope that this next hour or so goes without a technical hitch. If you can't hear me, please let me know by commenting. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to comment and I'll be able to bring your questions up and answer them, of course. Well, I thought that I would talk about how I was influenced and impressed by so many people when I first came into spiritualism. And I was first most impressed by a medium called Ivy Scott, and she was appearing, giving a demonstration of mediumship at Lewisham Spiritualist Church back in 1992, and I was persuaded by one of my skaters, who became a very dear friend, to go along with her because I was suffering badly from grief at the death of my father. Anyway, I walked in and my elderly, but she absolutely sparkled. And her philosophy was, I was so amazed because I'd never heard anything that really resonated with everything that I had come to think about and feel was true. And then, of course, she came to her mediumship part, and I saw her giving messages, and I could actually see these sort of wraith-like figures on the platform with her, but I couldn't hear them. Obviously, she could, and she was relaying messages from them to people in the congregation, and it was absolutely amazing, and I was quite, taken aback, because I'd never experienced anything like that before. I'd never been into a spiritualist church, and I'd never seen a medium working. So I decided that I would perhaps find out more about this. And needless to say, a couple of weeks later, she was going to be at Croydon again, and Kay, my friend, said, would I like to go again? And I jumped at the opportunity. And so I went along. And I could see all the people up on the platform with her. And then I thought, wait a minute, I think I can see people that I know. And Ivy Scott then brought forward a host of my family that I knew. I could see them, however, almost transparently, and I couldn't hear them, but she could hear them, and she was relaying their messages to me. And then she relayed a message from my father, and I was absolutely struck dumb. I don't think one word escaped my lips the whole time, but the message that she gave me from my father, nobody on earth would have known. And he referred to something that happened when I was a child, when we used to dance together, tap dance. And I actually went up on the stage with him, and we sang a song that was popularised by Flanagan and Allen called Me and My Shadow. And this he remembered and told me about. And he then said this, that remember that I will be your shadow now. And that just blew me away. So there you are. You see, that's how I came to be speaking to you about spiritualism tonight. a few years later. And what I was hoping was that people would like to ask me questions about everything that I know. Hello, Ginseng. Hello. There you are. You see, when I've done these live chat type things before on Facebook, I've not been able to see anybody's messages or anything. This is wonderful. So yes, hello there. I'm very pleased to see you. I think you might be the only person watching, actually. So I do hope you've got a question for me. Anyway, the thing is that I thought that I would tell you a little about all the mediums that have, have influenced me greatly. And once I got over my shock about the message that I received from Ivy Scott, I spoke to Kathy, who's my partner, of course, as you know, and said to her that I thought that I would like to find out more about this and see actually how they did it, because I thought there has to be some sort of trick attached to it. My father was a magician in the, he was a conjurer. He taught me sleight of hand and things like that. And I thought there has to be, a method in this somewhere whereby, people can conjure up these things. And of course, that those who are prosecuted under the Witchcraft Act in this country for so many hundreds of years, which isn't really funny, but it is if you know what I mean. They were accused of conjuring up the spirits of the dead. And of course, that's exactly how I saw it. And I thought, this is wonderful. This is to be pursued. This is to be upheld and lauded and spread about the news of all this. Of course, I'd never really heard about it before, and not organised spiritualism at all, or mediums, come to that. The only mediums I knew about were in the Bible, and they weren't called mediums, they were called prophets. But that's another story, of course. But yes, so I decided I would go to a local spiritualist church. I said to Kathy I was going to find out more about this and was going to find one. And I went to Lewisham Spiritualist Church. And I just turned up there. Kathy wasn't going to come with me, so I went on my own. And I got another message that Sunday night. So, all right, hello, everybody. I can see you. And I'm glad you like the stories. I don't want to bore anybody. But anyway, so the thing is, you see, there I was at this service at Lewisham Spiritualist Church. They'd never set eyes on me before. I'd never walked into a church like that before. And this was, just the same week that I'd been to Croydon Spiritualist Church the second time in my whole life and got that message from Ivy Scott. And blow me, I get another message from my father, but also I remember so well, because I was so puzzled by it, from an Auntie Katie. I didn't think I had an Auntie Katie. And she talked about being buried in a country churchyard. I thought, this is ridiculous. I come from a Jewish family. Nobody I knew of was buried in a churchyard. The whole thing was a mystery to me. Oh, and she also talked about doing the kind of work that they were doing there in the Spiritualist Church. I thought, this is ridiculous. Anyway, there I was. I got this other message. So I thought, I've got to find out. I've got to get to the bottom of all this. So afterwards, everybody congregated around the kitchen area for a cup of tea. So I found out since then, of course, that tea is like the holy grail, and the kitchen of any spiritualist church is like the holiest of holies, like the inner sanctum. Only the blessed can enter into the kitchen of any kind of spiritualist church. Anyway, there I was outside having a cup of tea, and I looked around to see if I could see anybody that I thought was fairly normal, which was funny coming from me, but we won't go there either. And I saw this bloke with a fag on, cigarette, in case you don't know what that is, and holding it like he'd been in the army or something, hiding it in his hand, you see. And I walked up to him and I said, "Excuse me, please, but could you tell me how I found out more about this?" Whoa, yeah. He's gone, "You can come to a circle tomorrow night." I went, "Circle?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What's that?" A group where you can find out. I said, "Oh, all right then." When I went home, I told Kathy. She thought I'd gone completely mad. And I ended up going there that night, and I walked into this little room at the back of the church, and there was this wonderful person sitting there, lots of purple taffeta and beautifully made up and beautiful hair and everything. And I looked around, I thought, well, I don't know, everybody else was wearing jeans and things, same as me, so I thought, well, that's all right. So I thought, all right, I'll sit down. And then she said, "You're here because some of you want to be mediums." I thought, what? No, that's wrong. So then she said, "Some of you may want to be healers." I thought, I don't know what that is. She said, "And some of you may want to be counsellors." I thought, oh, that sounds rational. Anyway, I thought, oh, well, all right, I'll stay. You know, I was doing everybody a favour. Myself, as it turned out. So then she spoke a bit, and then we did a meditation. Well, you know, to cut a long story short, I was grabbed. I met my dad. I then met the person who was going to stay with me throughout, right up until now. And she was going to be with me when I made my first fledgling appearance on the church platform at Lewisham Church a year or so later, and ever since. And of course, her name, it turned out, was Doris Stokes. And there's a bit about that in the new book that Linda Dearsley, you know, she wrote, well, she ghost wrote Doris's books, all those bestsellers, Voices in My Ear, Voices of Love, Host of Voices, you know, you name it. Because Doris Stokes, of course, was clairaudient, as it turns out, am I. So, in other words, she hears spirit. And I could hear them too. I could certainly hear her. I've heard her ever since as well. Mostly nagging, but there you are. But she's the person who, when I've worked on platform, would actually marshal all the people from that other side of life to come along and have a word or two. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. Anyway, I digress, I suppose, because, you know, I did develop my own mediumship, and I was very privileged to meet so many wonderful mediums. Some are absolutely legendary now. Some have passed the spirit themselves. But it was a real, you know, it was a real eye-opener for me, walking into Lewisham Spiritualist Church and going into that circle room and having that contact with spirit. Now, really what it made of me was a missionary. I didn't want to be a missionary, and I certainly didn't want to be a teacher, but it turned me into both. And, you know, it's just a matter of trying to let people know what the truth of the matter is. You know, we all search for something in life. We're forever searching for something. And I believe that I found it. And I want to pass that knowledge on to everybody and anybody who will listen, really. So there's some people. Hi. So I wonder if anybody has any questions about this way of life, about mediumship. I'd be happy to answer to the best of my abilities. Some of the mediums that I've met, I would like to mention, because they're often unmentioned. You know, everybody sort of that talks about mediums, there's sort of 2 or 3 perhaps that get honourable mentions. But the vast army of really good mediums that have you know, come through in this particular country of ours, ever since Emma Harding Britten basically, brought spiritualism from the USA, where she'd been working and developing herself as a medium. And when she returned back to England with her mother, actually started spiritualism here, the mother of spiritualism, she's often called, and that's Emma Harding Britton. Ever since then, we've had the most amazing mediums, really we have. And in my time, I was able to meet people like Vi Howard, who is medium Linda Rossiter's mother, wonderful healer at Lewisham. And when she passed, she gave Bert, the president, to understand that she would like me to take up her healing station, because I was a probationer healer at the time, and that meant going every week and giving healing under the auspices of learning how to heal in a circle under Bert French, but also doing practical hands-on healing work. And when Vi passed, she said that I should have her stall, her healing stall. So that's what happened. She also gave me, through her daughter, Linda Rossiter, who's a wonderful medium and taught me quite a lot, her Healing Minute badge, which I still have and treasure. Margaret Maggs, who was a vice president there, she was a wonderful medium. And I was privileged to see her last demonstration of mediumship. And she was suffering from, dementia. And it was just, it just started. And she fulfilled her engagement at the church. And she gave about 4 or 5 short messages, very short. And then she said, "That's it, I'm done. I won't be doing any more." And she returned to the platform, sat down. That was the last demonstration she gave. That was wonderful, touching, but absolutely fantastic. And as for Ivy Scott, the lady I mentioned to you, fantastic medium. She used to pack all the churches everywhere she went. The churches were packed if they knew she was going to be there. And she gave such wonderful evidence of survival. And when she was 100 years old, she was in a nursing home in East Grinstead. And Kathy and I were privileged to go, not just to see her there in her room at the nursing home, but to give her healing as well. That was such a privilege to be able to do that all those years later, after, to this lady who brought me into this way of life. Right. Russell Simmons. Can't post comments or something. I think I can post a comment. I'm not sure. There's some sort of method by which. But anyway, Russell Simmons says, I think if I press that, hold on, show. There you are. I must have a bit of help from upstairs, I think, because I'm such an idiot. Russell, can you tell me the difference between spiritualism and spiritism? Yes. Spiritualism started in America. It was called spiritualism then, as it is when it came here to England, to the United Kingdom, in the 19th century. And spiritualism is what it was called. And spiritism emanated from France, in fact, where another kind of spiritualism took root, propounded by someone called Allan Kardec. And he was a spiritist. Now, the difference used to be perceived as spiritists were people who believed in afterlife, the same as we do as spiritualists, but were actually basically Christian in their religious belief. So in a way, it was attractive. It was made attractive to people who wished to remain within their established conventional religious bounds. And in fact, you'll find Spiritism is absolutely popular in places like Brazil, in South America, where, of course, basically you've got that amazing Roman Catholic influence, but you also have the underlying influence of the indigenous, more nature-based religions. So that is basically the difference. I suppose you could say that there's, oh yes, and the other thing is, they're just reminding me they're upstairs. I'm not supposed to be doing messages, of course, I'm not, but communication is communication, and I never refuse it. The point is that, that they're really spiritualism and spiritism are different, because spiritualism generally does not confine itself within the bounds of Orthodox religion at all. And in fact, spiritualism, I'm a Christian spiritualist, but still a heretic as far as Orthodox Christianity is concerned, because I don't accept that the only people that go to heaven are those who believe in the deity of Jesus Christ, because I know that everybody actually inherits eternal life. And the other thing is that the Spiritists believe in reincarnation, and spiritualists generally, officially, do not. Spiritualists say only that which is proven. We only will accept that which is proven, and unless somebody can absolutely prove that they have been reincarnated, we don't accept it as a doctrine. But spiritists do accept reincarnation as a doctrine. So I hope that helped. Russell, he's not answering, but and then Simon. Oh, wait a minute. Did I ever see Gordon Higginson? I suppose you mean, did I ever see him demonstrate in the flesh, as it were? No, I didn't. But I've been fortunate in that I worked at Stansted Hall, which is where he was based for many years, and that was when I was editor of Psychic News, and we had our offices there. And also before that, I was editor of the Spiritualist National Union New Communicator, which was an in-house circulation that used to be sent out. And of course, Gordon Higginson was absolutely revered. He started, as you know, I'm sure, he started out, I think he was about 4 years old when he sat in his mother Fanny's circle, and he was a splendid medium, and his philosophy was absolutely superb too. And there are many recordings, fortunately, of his work. So I suppose that's a sort of long answer for a short one. But thank you for asking me. The other thing is that Jean Bassett, Minister Jean Bassett, actually wrote his biography called On the Side of Angels. And that was a wonderful book all about Gordon himself. And I know that a lot of the people that he taught are still with us, like Paul Jacobs, of course, famous now. They're all famous mediums themselves now. And Jean Bassett was absolutely wonderful, a wonderful ambassador as well for spiritualism. And she was taught by Gordon, and she wrote his biography, On the Side of Angels. So if anybody else wants to ask me a question, they're very welcome. There. Oh, Russell. Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I'm glad. And the other thing that, you know, I often get asked lots of questions about animals. You know, do animals survive in spirit? And of course, I'm very fortunate that I knew Irene Salter. Now, she was a wonderful healer. And she was also an animal healer. And she and her husband ran a healing sanctuary for many, many years. When Gerald passed away, Irene decided to basically sell the house, and a portion of that money she took for herself and bought herself a retirement apartment further down the coast than they'd been. And when I went to tea with her one day with Kathy, she said to me, "Don't tell anybody, but I gave everything, all the proceeds of my house, to St Dunstan's for what those wonderful lads did during the war." And she said, "But don't tell anybody because they'll think I'm rich." So I didn't tell anybody, but I've told you now. So Irene's money all went to St Dunstan's, and she had this little flat. It was very nice, absolutely packed, crowded with books and tapes and things, you know, and pictures of her and Gerald. It was wonderful. The interesting thing is that Irene advertised in the Psychic News, and she got into trouble because the advertising manager at the Psychic News said it was all wrong because she'd said Christmas greetings from Gerald and Irene, and they said it was misleading because Gerald was actually passed away, and that is a spiritualist newspaper. You know, I mean, the point is that Gerald was still working with Irene, and I'm sure they're working together now in the world of spirit and looking after all those animals as well, because you know, animals do live on as well as ourselves. Fiona, now let me see. Isn't this good fun? You can get your questions up on screen. Everybody can see it. Is it possible to develop mediumship without circles? No spiritualist churches near me? Yes, you're talking to the right person. Look, what you need to develop mediumship is a quiet space and a quiet time. So, you know, if you go to a church, to a circle, you can expect to sit for an hour, okay, in a group of people. Or if you go to a home circle, the same thing applies, that maybe half a dozen to 8 people will sit in a group for their development. This will consist of having a leader who hopefully is a good medium themselves, and who can get information from the world of spirit in order to help the circle along, the people that are sitting for development. And of course, when you have a group of people, they can exchange their experiences during that hour. What one would do in a circle is exchange pleasantries, so you're relaxed, and then there would be a guided meditation. After the meditation, one would usually relay the experience of that meditation, and the medium would explain its significance, and then there'd possibly be some discussion about that between everybody. By that time, of course, the hour would be up, especially if you've got a few people in the circle. I took a circle at Wimbledon Church for about 3 years, and we had about 20 people in our circle, one of whom was the famous Ivan Lee. I used to have to sit him next to me. He'll remember this. I sat him next to me because he was a bit of a naughty one. He used to be, you know. So I used to have him sitting next to me so I could give him a quick smack. There. So so the thing is this, that there is a way of developing your own mediumship without actually having to go into a circle or finding one. You can, and especially now we're at home, aren't we, all of us, or most of us are. And I actually have got, would you believe, I have made videos on YouTube, which are full of instructions and meditations in order to develop your own mediumship. So if you care to have a look at that, go to Lyn Gibb-de YouTube. I suppose you just sort of key in my name, Google it, YouTube, or meditations or something, and there's a whole load of videos I've done with meditations, short ones and also longer ones. And I also made a CD, which is on Spotify, I think, or whatever they call it now. You get it on Amazon for just a few pence. I think you can download tracks, and there are 3 15-minute long meditations, guided meditations by Spirit, which will help you to develop your own, attunement to Spirit, and you'll find that's a good stepping stone for you. And of course, there are plenty of books to read as well. But it's the meditation, the guided meditation, being quiet for a specific time, during the week. Maybe just do that once a week. Don't overdo it. And what I always say is, when you're going to do meditation, I strongly advise that you don't do it before, when you're very tired and you're going to go to bed to sleep, because you're going to go off, and that's not a good look. When you do a meditation, you have to go there in a specific way, experience the meditation, and come back in the same way and be fully conscious after that. So, that's just a tip. But yeah, so I wonder if that's helped you at all. Any online circles? No mediums near me. Do you know what I was thinking? You see, the thing is, there could be, I suppose. I'm not aware, but it's quite possible. I mean, I would love to do that. I would love to do online. I suppose like this, I would be able to conduct a circle and invite perhaps, say 4 or 5 people to join me, because there is a facility here, I believe, for joining in, when you're here, sort of thing. But yes, I'll think about that myself. But I think if you have a look, you might find something. But I can't tell you about that, except that it doesn't surprise me, because that's actually what I was thinking about doing. Right, next. Oh, that. Okay. I could just feel pulled to my. Oh, right. Yes. Well, now that is a very interesting. That's very interesting. The fact is, as I'm sure you know, we're all psychic, aren't we? We're all psychic beings. It's a part of being alive. Psychic faculties are attached to our physicality. Used to be called the sixth sense. Like we have 5 ordinary senses, if we're lucky. And then we have this 6th sense, which is our psychic sense. It's the thing where we walk into a room and we don't feel right. We think, there's something wrong here. That's our psychic sense operating. Or we meet somebody and we're immediately drawn to them. That's our psychic sense operating. Or we think that somebody's going to, we're thinking about somebody and then they ring us up. Oh, I was just thinking about you. Or they come round. Oh, I was just thinking about you. This is common to the human race. We are all psychic. And it's not for nothing that it's called psychic, because psychic is from the Greek psyche, which is the soul. And the thing is that we can develop that psychic ability it really mimics, it can even mimic mediumship. People can be convinced that you've got spirit help just because you're so accurately using those psychic faculties. But the psychic faculty is attached to your physicality, not to the world of spirit, although there's a thin line between the two. So the thing is that what we do, we develop from that psychic vibration, which is down here, to the mediumistic one, which is the attunement to spirit, which is elevating our vibrations, our frequency. We're all operating on a frequency of light, as you know, as the whole of life, the whole of the universe is vibrating on a frequency, various frequencies, of course. And what we do as individuals, we have our frequency, which is earthly, and then we have a spirit frequency. And it's by elevating our consciousness to attune with that spirit, which is just that bit, just on from the psychic, that gets us that information from spirit. So you see, you know, it's wonderful that you're called to mediumship, and I'm sure that you'll make a splendid medium, because you need to be a good psychic, really, to be a medium. But not you know, all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are medium, because they haven't developed that special attunement to the spirit world. So, oh, please conduct a circle. I would love that. Well, I put your comment up so that I can actually say, I will really think about that seriously. I'll really think about that. Now, what was that? Is that clear sentience? No. No, it isn't. Clairsentience, that prefix, that clair, means clear, and it's attached to clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, and clairaudience, which is clear hearing. What I would say is that is spirit induced, that is spirit input. If you feel things from spirit, that is clairsentience. You are feeling from spirit. You're feeling something that otherwise you wouldn't be able to if you hadn't attuned yourself to the spirit world. And in the same way, clairvoyance, you see what you are receiving from spirit, and you hear clairaudience, what you are receiving from spirit. It is not the same as those psychic feelings that you get. You know, the psychic feeling comes really from around the solar plexus. You know, that gut feeling is a psychic feeling. So you know, it's not the same. But if you have got those very strong psychic feelings, then you can develop that by means of meditation, elevating your consciousness to actually receive feelings from spirit, because they will help you to feel things. The first thing you'll feel when you develop as a medium, if you are very sensitive to feeling, is how people die. So I always used to say, you know, a medium dies as many times as they're going to give a message, because the first thing that people will do often when they come through to you from the world of spirit, and they want to relay something to their loved ones down here, they will tell them how they died. So they will tell them by giving you the symptoms. And so you can feel terrible for that little amount of time. You feel dreadful because you're literally experiencing how they felt just before they died to this life. So you do get quite adept at working out what it was actually. I mean, you know, you can often discern sort of almost like a doctor, like what was actually wrong with them, because they can be so vivid in the feelings that they give you. So, you know, that is something that if you are very psychic in that way, that you feel things very, very much, you'll probably be an excellent medium, because you'll be able to feel all those awful symptoms. You know, people that couldn't breathe and you know, all sorts. So, don't know if anybody else wants to say anything. And we're on 40 minutes. That's handy. There's a sort of countdown clock, which saves one looking around for a timepiece. Speaking of clocks, I used to love the president of West Norwood Spiritualist Church, Tilly Hatton, and I was always the stand-in medium, because Kathy and I only lived about a 15-minute drive away from the church. So if she was let down by a medium, because that used to happen quite a lot, you know, medium secretaries at churches often have to book mediums a year in advance. And who's to say what's going to happen? So, you know, the Sunday night or the whatever night it is draweth near and nearer, and then it happens, and then everybody's sitting around and wondering where the medium is. So either the medium has forgotten all about it, lost her diary or his diary, get held up or get ill. What happened? Tilly Hutton used to ring me and say, this would be at, say, 6:30 nearly on a Sunday night. The medium can't come. So I would jump in the motor, woof, off I went, and I would be the medium. So I was always a standing medium for Tilly. When Tilly passed, it was supposed to be a Church of England service. Like I said, many spiritualists are Christians anyway, but they're also spiritualists. And Tilly was a Christian spiritualist, although she was president of a Spiritualist National Union church. And there was going to be a Church of England service. And the vicar visited the family, and the daughter heard what he had to say and sacked him. And what happened? I was indoors and I saw the phone, and you know when you get the numbers come up, and I thought, that's Tilly's number. She can't be ringing me. And when I picked up, hello, this is Tilly's daughter. You know, condolences, etc. So she said, I wonder if you'd take Mum's funeral. I said, yes, I'd be delighted. I thought, wow, I'm a stand-in vicar as well. And when I turned up in the car park at the Creme, and there were some people walking towards me out of their cars, and they looked and they looked and they looked, and they said to me, I didn't know who they were, they said, Lynn, are you taking the funeral? Because of course I was wearing my collar. And I said, yes, I am actually. And they said, well, she got her own way then, didn't she? So there you are. And the funniest of all was having, you know, walked after the big do in the huge chapel. It was packed, of course. We had to go to the graveside for the interment. And we were standing there, and I said the prayers, and I closed my eyes to say the prayer, and then suddenly I heard, get on with it. It was Tilly's voice. Like that. I opened my eyes and I realised I wasn't just a mourner, because I was and I quickly continued with the service. I'd forgotten I was taking the service, but she made sure that I continued with it. Get on with it, she went. So there you are. Now, Simon. I think spiritualism is more relevant now, more than ever, especially now we have this pandemic. Personal responsibility comes to mind. What are your thoughts? Well, I guess the personal responsibility is talking about people who are flouting advice, because here, thank God, in the United Kingdom, we do not live in a police state. We are a true democracy. We do not have armed police on our streets. We expect our citizens to behave responsibly and to conform to the government's wishes in certain areas of life. And we know that people are not observing social distancing as they should be. And unfortunately, this has a terrible knock-on effect. Of course, the other thing is, it's not just governmental guidelines, it's ethical guidelines too, because personal responsibility as a spiritualist principle is a spiritual principle. It's the ethics of having responsibility for one's own actions. And you would think that people would find it in themselves to owe a responsibility to others, in as much as when they know that they might be contagious, or they may be putting our service workers at risk, that they would be a little more careful in the way in which they conduct their lives at the moment. I think that we cannot, because we are how we are here in England, in the United Kingdom, we cannot put people under house arrest. You know, it's not us, but it would be nice, wouldn't it, if everybody had some thought for others. And the other thing about personal responsibility is, of course, that it doesn't mean the same thing to a lot of people. Some people say that personal responsibility absolutely negates the need for anybody else to suffer for us. But the fact is that people do suffer for us, don't they? If we are not mindful of them and their welfare. So that if that sort of helps you yourself, I mean, one of the things we can't do is allow ourselves to become angry, and you know, because anger is a very negative emotion, and it doesn't help our physicality. It actually, you know, releases you know, substances into our bloodstream and into our body, those feelings that are not good for us anyway. And apart from that, you could say that a lot of anger is not good for anybody, because if somebody lashes out at somebody else, the next person, because they're so angry, they are, you know, they are basically, you know, bringing the whole of the human race down with it. But it is difficult. The spiritualism is more relevant, I think, unfortunately, in a way, as it becomes all times of terrible distress for the human race. Spiritualism, as we know it, modern spiritualism, has seen us through 2 world wars. And we know that spiritualism burgeoned in the both the First and Second World Wars. Because why? people were losing people in vast numbers, and you know, there was fear and injury going on, death and destruction, and the message of spiritualism that we all live on after this death that we suffer from in this life, that we will move on to another life, and that we can also communicate back from that life to loved ones left here. And the mediums then became very, very important people, as they really always should have been to humanity. But in times such as these, of course, they should be beacons of light and comfort for those who are going through it at the moment. So yes, they're my thoughts, Simon. Never one to be very quick about it either. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so, what I can do, see, I can ask people to come on to this this presentation with me if they'd like to, but I think all of you are quite modest anyway, and I don't know how many people are watching. I did just touch on the fact that Irene Souter was an animal healer. And I know that lots of people have asked me in the past about their animals who have passed over. And I would just like to, you know, reaffirm that all our companion animals are there on the other side waiting for us. And you know, the love that they have for us is very special, and that doesn't die either any more than human companions and loved ones. And I thought, you know, we talk about other mediums, which is what I started to talk about, and there are many other mediums, of course, who do wonderful, wonderful work. When I was editor of Psychic News, I met so many wonderful people, and people like Joe Cooper, who wrote books and wonderful raconteur, and he wrote Psychic Discoveries, very good, and Astroverse, and he reckoned that I was going to have it when I left Psychic News. I would have an even bigger desk somewhere one day. So I don't know. I haven't got that yet. That's the other thing about psychics. You see, they can actually read people very well, as one can. But the danger is, because there isn't any contact with the spirit, that predictions that they might make on the basis of your past life experience and how you are now could be very, very wrong. Basically because there are many paths of probability, as you know, into our future. And although there are some fixed points, as we look back on our lives, those of us who've lived a longish one, there are fixed points that you think to yourself, well, try as I might, I couldn't have got away from that. And it's always a benefit, ultimately. But the fact is that to know one's future isn't always a good thing, because some of us have to go through all sorts of trauma, and we will get out the other side of it. And all of us have done that, because we're all sitting here now together, having been through all sorts, because there's not one of us gets away scot-free. And, you know, I think that we have to look at that, and, you know, we have to say that trying to look into the future isn't always a good thing. we really must take as Doris Stokes' favourite song, One Day at a Time, Sweet Jesus. So, right, yeah, that showed that one. Lady G, learned about you and your book from Psychic Bob on YouTube Spirit Channel. Oh right, okay. I'll have to look that up. I wonder who Psychic Bob is. I must know him, I would hope. But I will look him up. Thank you. Oh, and the book. Yeah, that book's, you know, it's just, I just sort of sat there and wrote it, you know. I mean, I just went through everything that I could think of. I did write the book Principles of Spiritualism in 1999 while I was still editing Psychic News for Thorsen's, because previously, 10 years before that, I'd written a book for them called Women and Sport, because I was a sports journalist. And I wanted to make more of it. They wouldn't reprint it, and it ran out. And then it was being sold on eBay and things for vast amounts of money, which is potty. So I thought I'll write more than that. So I did actually write this Spiritualist Handbook, which has loads of stuff in it. It does have workshops in it. It's got about 8, I think, different workshops you can do at home. And it has loads of information in it about, you know, development, and it's got loads of stuff about old spiritualists, not me. And well, I wasn't, yeah, well, I suppose I was. And you might find it interesting if you haven't looked at it already. And I don't think it costs too much, but they're already selling it second hand on eBay for lots of money. I don't know, maybe I signed the odd copy or something to make it so valuable, but you can still get it off Amazon because they digitally publish it. You know, and so I get a little royalty every time, but it's not that much. Really. It's about getting the message out, which brings me back really to where I started from. I don't know how they do that, them upstairs, but I reckoned that I could probably manage to, you know, sustain this little chat for about an hour. And when I look, I see it's 57 minutes and 54 seconds. So it's probably time to wrap up. I hope that you've enjoyed this little chat with me. And I haven't brought anybody on because I didn't see anybody requesting that. So I'm not sure quite how to work that one out yet. So I'll have to look at that. I'm learning all I can from these online tutorials. And I hope that you have a good and restful night if it's your night time. You have a good day if it's your daytime. And all points in between are blessed with peace and comfort. And I hope that you remain upbeat, that you remain optimistic, to know that the human race has been through lots before this, and that they are working away on a vaccine and various methods of perhaps even curing, you know, this virus. You know, if you cast your mind back, as I can, to when the HIV/AIDS epidemic first hit, being a gay woman, you know, all my friends were going down like 9 pins. It was just awful. And the first funeral I took after my mother's funeral was that of my friend Andrew's. And that was dreadful. I had to read the service. I couldn't bring myself to actually, you know, say a service because I didn't think I could cope with that. But, you know, they did find antivirals, you know, retroviral drugs, so that now when people have that dreadful, you know, virus, It's controlled and controllable, and people now live with HIV. They don't die from it. So there. So I'm sure that with a bit of spirit help, they will find, something to help us with this awful thing that's going on at the moment. So I say God bless to you, and I hope there you are. It's just on the hour. How did they do that? I hope that that you'll meet me again on this live stream, live chat, whatever they call it. And I hope that I get better at it, and that we can have some good hours together. And I will, Fiona, think about an online circle, because that would be a nice hour to spend, would it not? Oh, I'd be letting loose all those mediums on the world again. Well, I say God bless you, and I will see you again. Be'ezrat Hashem, with the will of God. It says end broadcast.